Hello everybody and welcome back to the 5th round for F1 TS Sub action. My name is Alan Kavner, I'm alongside Nick, and again, like we said, we're here for the 5th round of the Pinnacle tier for F1 TS Sub, the Spanish Grand Prix in Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and I'm really excited for this one. We started today with 12 minutes of qualifying. We now started the live stream with 10 minutes, and nobody has set a time yet, so that is good, so we're just starting out the action, so like we said, we are here for the 5th round of the season, and something to point out, Beastaz is not in the session, and to speak about him, he didn't even end up winning last week. A little shocker there after he got a hat trick. He won the first 3 rounds in Russia. He was not able to win. One of the Mercedes was able to win last week, and ever since then, it's sort of been a touchy subject for Beastaz, definitely, after a win that he should have had. He had an 18-second gap before the first safety car we had, and after that, it was all history, where I believe it was MLA who was able to take the victory last weekend, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's spot on. So MLA stole it from right under his nose after a good long battle with his teammate. But yeah, hello everybody, and thanks for joining us. We are under 10 minutes now left of qualifying, and as you said, we've got 5 drivers absent today. Both Williams drivers, interestingly enough, so this will be Flair's 4th, or he hasn't attended, so we'll have to look into that. But yeah, the biggest story is Beastaz isn't here. He isn't in the lobby. Invites were sent out to every driver as well as a backup one, so if they're able to get in before the race starts, then obviously they'll be able to race. Just to remind everyone, Odems has a qualifying ban for this race after his incidents in Russia, so he won't be able to take part as GoTony sets the fastest time. Odems will be starting from the back of the grid, and he also was disqualified from the race result in Russia, so yes, he's been a naughty boy, and he'll be sitting in his garage whilst 14 other drivers head out on track.
It's funny that you bring that up. I mean, I wouldn't say it was funny, but I mean, for us in the booth, it's definitely something I'll laugh at a little bit, the way you said it. I just thought that was pretty funny, but like you said, now we have 14 drivers that will be participating in the qualifying session. At first, I didn't know that, so thank you for bringing that up, because sometime during this session, I probably would have been like, Odom's not out on track. I would have pointed that out, but thank you for letting me know. Speaking about who's on track, it looks like James goes to the fastest lap, a 1:19.2. The person in second was Matt. He was only 700ths of a second off the pace of him. I mean, I was going to say he got the fastest lap, but never mind. James sets it, and it looks like we have 9 people, or 10 people have line, set the fastest lap. Last week's winner, MLA, set the fastest time of 1:18.5. That's 7/10 up on the board, so his name will be on the top today. So, and looks like someone else got the time in. Not sure who that was. Could have been Stiffer, who just crossed the line in 10th place. Positions changing between Chris and D90. He promotes himself to 11th. So on 2 people left to qualify. That is Sean and Dog. As like we said, TS Oden not setting a time today in qualifying. So with 7 minutes remaining, 7/10 gap between MLA and James. Do you think that'll stay till the end?
Well, we've definitely got Sean to come into play here. Obviously, in the 3 sessions that he's done in qualifying, he's only set 1 flying lap, I believe, or 4 sessions I should say. He's only set 1 flying lap right at the end of the session, so he obviously feels confident within himself and within his car. I'm just riding on board with D90, and his car looks so slippery. It just looks like it's not stuck to the ground at all. But he's coming into the pits after what you presume was a mistake-filled lap, considering he's 14 seconds off the pace. But yeah, MLA and Mercedes, perhaps we're gonna for once see them go head to head without Beastaz being on the grid, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top. But yeah, Stifler new to the league, by the way, so shout out to him. He's just crossed the line. He moves up to 6th position with a 20 flat, so that's a decent time for what was his 2nd flying run on those set of tyres. Everyone on the soft tyre, by the way, so no one's feeling the need to go on those mediums. We have available the soft, mediums and the hard, of course. We are just over 5 minutes left of the session, as Chris now goes 2nd, so that was his 2nd flying run on those tyres. Chris, of course, had a frustrating week last Friday. when he didn't finish the race after that incident with Odems, so he'll be looking to bounce back. As we said, Odems is starting from the back of the grid, so expect him to start 15th, and Sean I expect to move out. Dogananis, meanwhile, looks to be doing what the Force India is doing in real life, and leave the pit lane whilst everyone is just coming in. So we have a lot of drivers in the pits, but yeah, Chris is in second. That's a decent time from him. He'll be looking to get back to the pits as quick as he can, so he can get another set of boots on and get back out there, Alan.
Yeah, recently, I looked at third place James. He was in second, and he was driving 7/10 close to MLA. Now Chris is able to nudge right in there, and he's second and 2/10, almost 3/10 behind MLA. So with 4.5 minutes remaining, a little more than that, he's gonna cruise right on in the pits. A little drift through that corner, but Chris right now, he's gonna hopefully come into the pits as he is. So Chris is able to put time 2/10 up on the board close to MLA. It was him and one other out on track. That was Dog, and now it looks like everyone else is leaving the pits, just like Cobbler's in D90. You also have Sam and Matt also leaving the pits. We have 4 minutes left for these drivers to set time. So as we go through the grid, there's still 2 to set times. That is Dog and Sean. And it looks like Sean is out of the pits. And it looks like Trent is on board with Dog. He's out of the pits as well. Passing Sean, actually. So a little coincidence there. So they're out with less than 4 minutes remaining. Remember, we saw last week with Beast Taz, he came 1 second, less than that, 1 second to the line to start his first lap. That would have been, I mean, I remember that. That was, I think, one of the most impressive things at all. I wouldn't say his wins, because I know he's a fast driver, but it's sort of surprising he crossed the line at the second remaining. I don't think we'll ever see that in F1 TSM and for a long, long time, but I mean, that was really impressive. I mean, speaking on Beast Taz, like we said, he's not here. So most likely he's going to lose a huge margin in the championship if MLA and a couple others finish pretty well against Beast Taz, but you did point out before we started this, Beast Taz is actually online, so he could join during qualifying.
Yeah, definitely. If he's able to get in, then he'll start at the back of the grid alongside Odems. That'll be an interesting one after they both started on the front row last time out in Russia. But Dog's about to come set a time. He's currently in standard, so he's got enough as he almost bins it, sends it into the pits when he didn't mean to. So it's gonna affect this lap and also the next one. He slots into 12th, but yeah, he's gonna have another run at this. Perhaps he should turn his engine down, just do another slow one, and then get back onto Rich for one flying. But Sean, meanwhile, is about to start his flying lap. You have to presume his one and only, judging by his previous qualifying format that he likes to take. But yeah, Alan, we've got a lot of drivers out on track. I'm expecting to see a lot of position changes before the end of this session, as we see the 2 Force Indias swapping positions on track. And yeah, this will be interesting to see who can improve. 2 minutes left of the session. Pressure's going to be on. It's a very technical track with grass either side. I can't talk today. And yeah, drivers losing the back end was a feature of the podium race earlier on. So it'll be interesting to see whether these guys can show why they're in the top tier.
Also going to point out, looks like MLA and Chris and also James are the top 3 drivers on the board. Will be out on the track with 1.5 minutes remaining. Looks like they're going to try and go with the B-side strategy, dive out of the pits at the last second, see if they're going to put on time. Because, again, I'm not sure if we mentioned this or people know, but as time goes on, the track gets more rubber, which means these cars are going to be faster, at least from my understanding. It's going to be more grip, the cars are going to be faster, and that obviously results in a faster lap time. So that's one of the reasons why drivers like to go out the last second. I mean, but then again, there's a chance of me in some dirty air stuck behind a car. Looks like Sean edges himself into 3rd place. That is 3/10 behind his Silver Arrow teammate MLA. So they'll be 1 and 3, not a 1 and 2, a 1 and 3. So right now it looks like a yellow in Sector 1. That is Dan retiring. A little bit of a surprise to him a little bit. Because I thought he would have been inside the top 10. Looks like another retirement. That is Cobbler's, both different parts of the track. It's a little surprising. You can see the left front on Cobbler against the wall, but the right front is gone. But with Dan, his right front is gone against the wall, which is his right side as well. So both those drivers out of qualifying. Both of them weren't even a full second within the leader of MLA. So we have now down to 30 seconds remaining for these drivers to complete or either start a lap. And it'll be very interesting to see if they can. It looks like Matt is into the pit, but everyone else is still out on track. So we have 15 seconds left. It looks like Sean has gotten bumped down to 4th due to Sam putting himself up in 3rd place. Actually ran wide in the first corner as he retires from the session. So as time counts down to 2-1 done, it looks like Tony and Odoms and Matt will be done qualifying automatically. So now we're given another 3 minutes for these drivers who finish their laps, and if they don't by then, it'll just forcibly stop their car and end the session. So we don't have to wait here for too long. There's a yellow in Sector 2, by the way. We're going to look through. That is the Toro Rosso of Clifford. He is only 8/10 near the pole, as Chris Cross is aligned and only be able to get 1/10 against MLA, who actually says he just got pole position. Never mind, there goes James, fastest time, James Slater. Now MLA does it again, a 1:18 flat. James thought he did it. 2 seconds later, got denied, and MLA's back on top by 3/10. As the time counts down, we go through the grid. There's D90 still out on track, not pushing at all. You have Dog as well going for a lap time, and that should be it. Though we're on board with Dog, he goes through the final sector over the last couple parts. The chicane doesn't even look like he's trying, so he's going to call it a day. And I already know D90's lap is calling it a day, so our pole position winner for today will be MLA, last weekend's winner of the Russian Grand Prix. He does by 3/10. And speaking about time, the drivers inside the top 10 are all within a full second. What do you have to think about that, Nick?
Yeah, that was pretty exciting at the end there. I don't know what happened, but as I said about drivers losing the rear of the car, 2 of them did it instantly, Cobblers and Dan, I believe. So one was on turn 3, which is so easy just to run a little bit wide, and it slings you into the inside. The other, of course, I believe of Cobblers, the Haas driver, had his incident just before turns 7 and 8. So yeah, 2 drivers destroying their car and not able to take part in the few final minutes of qualifying session, but it didn't disappoint. James, I thought he'd stolen pole position there from MLA, but MLA left it late to pump in that final time. Sean, of course, starting 5th. He'll be a bit disappointed with that. That's the biggest margin he's had of the season over behind his teammate, I should say. So 8/10 of a second is quite a margin, and you know, I can only think that he needs to rethink that strategy of only doing 1 flying lap, because you definitely need to get in the rhythm. Obviously, as you mentioned, down the track is quicker at the end of the session, but definitely I think an extra lap, especially when he's got the tyres to do so, might have helped him. But yeah, good strong performance from Chris as well. He was sitting on the front row, but just got bumped down, but he did improve on that final lap, so well done to him. And Sam, who's sitting in 4th position. D90, as you mentioned, he backed off his final run, but he did well in his lap before that to move into 6th position. I believe that's his highest qualifying session. Odems, of course, just left the session, but he's back with us. He'll be starting from the back of the grid. And Stifler, on his debut, did a solid job in 10th position.
So that will finish out the qualifying order for today's and this season's Spanish Grand Prix. So we're going to do a quick rundown. Stay with me. Here we go. MLA, James, Chris, Sam, Sean, D90, Matt, Clifford, George, Stifler, Cobblers, Dog, Dan, Go Tony, and Odoms finishing it out. So 14 drivers were able to set a time. I'm not sure if we mentioned, but Stifler, the ice and the flag to be with us today and for the rest of the season in the Sauber to finish up the season. I'm not sure if it's for the rest of the season. You told me for Hammer Time in the Sauber. So he'll be here for today's race, at least. That's from my knowledge.
Yeah, he'll be here for the rest of the season. So he's got that seat for the Sauber, and he'll be there as we are about to start round 5 in Spain. This is going to be an exciting one. We've got 15 drivers. Odom's, of course, starting from the back of the grid. He'll be out of place. Bisas not here. Of course, he is online as we mentioned, but he's not in the lobby, so that'll be interesting to see how that has a bearing on the championship. Of course, he leads after winning 3 races and finishing second, I believe, in the other one. But yeah, these guys are getting ready to start their formation lap, choosing their setup, picking their fuel, how much fuel they want to put in their car. Of course, there's a lot of strategy involved, not just with tires, but with fuel as well. So yeah, if you see anyone pop up on the bottom of the screen says disqualified, they aren't disqualified, just from the formation lap, if they have contact with another car. But we've got 14 drivers, so I'm not exactly sure who we've lost. If we've lost Odems, so he joined back, so he should be able to race once we get on the grid. I hope so. But as he's left the session, so we'll have to wait and find out what's going to happen with him. But yeah, Alan, I bet you're looking forward to this one.
Yes, definitely. Speaking about the track, let's get into the track facts for today's Spanish Grand Prix. It is 4.6 kilometers long, or 2.9, or 2. Yeah, if you're wrong around it, either 2.8 or 2.9 miles long. It has 16 corners, and the fastest lap time is held by Kimi Räikkönen. Official race lap time, I do believe, I don't think it was either pole position or race time, a 1:21.6, and the 2008 Ferrari ended up to go on and winning that race here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. So again, I'm really excited for this race. If you don't know, this track has been heavily modified, definitely at the third sector where turn 10 was. It used to run very wide, and I wasn't sure if they really counted it as 2 corners there. It would more like be a hairpin instead of what it is today. But if you're riding on board MLA, what they're going through now, used to run very wide. They're a swooping right-hander, and just like the last corner, it'd be exactly like that one. They have to go through this little chicane complex here. I call it a parking lot, really. It really is. It's just a bunch of speed curbs and speed bumps to fill it in the last sector, which are turns 14 and 15. Due to that chicane, it added 2 extra corners to this circuit, which makes it a little bit more interesting for today. And definitely, I mean, it's obviously been here for a long time, but I like to point it out. A little history lesson for the viewers today, as Odoms is keep joining and leaving the session. I don't think he'll be given a car for today. But one more thing, I'd like to apologize for the little phone in the background. I thought I muted it, but I guess not. So that is fixed, and here's the grid order, as we have 14 drivers for today's Spanish Grand Prix. Here we go, the 5 red lights for the 5th round of F1 TSL action season, and we're riding on board MLA. It looks to be a steady start against the Renault. It's actually a fantastic start, as you can see a glitch in the background. Not sure what happened there. Now it looks like James Slater is going to look to the inside, backs off, however, and headed into the first corner. I look behind MLA. Looks to be clean for all around. I think I see a car in the background. Is that D90 spinning in the Ferrari? Yes, it is. And with one other car involved, that is Go Tony. He has not had the best first 2 races, or 3, I'm not good at counting. He hasn't had the best couple of races in F1 TSL. I know he's a new driver, and he hasn't had the time to get used to anything. But MLA off to a steady start, and he picks up 7/10 off the pole position against James, going down through the order. There's Dan against Matt. It looks like to be a little cluster up here. The 2 Saubers trying to go side by side. Dan may dive it to the inside, but no, he backs out, and Stifler is able to hang on. Remember, this is first Grand Prix, and he's having a tough time with these bricks on his shoulders. There's some lag up ahead, however. I was looking at one of the Haas drivers just lagging in place, but MLA already picking up a full second over James Slater. His teammate Sean is actually, okay, more lag, my mistake, but Sean is trying to catch down second place in the Renault. And as we get done with our first official lap of racing out of 33 today, it'll be MLA who is able to retain the race lead and lead the first lap of today's Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, just to mention, Go Tony's got wing damage on the right-hand side of his car, so whether he'll have to come into the pits, we'll wait to see. But D90, after his best qualifying position this season, had an accident at the start. I didn't see it, so Go Tony does come into the pit, so he's going to change that wing. MLA leads, and comfortable lead, almost 2 seconds as he goes through Sector 1, with James Slater in second in the Renault. Sean's got up a couple positions into the podium places, with Chris just behind him. So Chris had a clean first lap, which is good for him. But Joel up to 5th in the Red Bull, and Dan also up a few places, 7 to be exact, in 6th position. We've also got Dog, who's moved up into 9th, but the biggest losers for that have to be Sam and D90. They come down quite a bit. They drop down the order, But yeah, this will be interesting as we see a Mercedes go wide and get rid of the DRS sign. Is this going to provide an opportunity for Chris to dive down the inside? No, he thinks
Stifler.
better of it.
Stifler ran off the circuit. There must have been some sort of problem. He got free-trained by his teammate Dan a lap earlier. I hate to interrupt, but Stifler was getting chased down by Matt, and he ran off the circuit in the back straight DRS zone, went on the little gravel trap, got back off, but lost some time and a position to Matt. So 2 laps done. It looks like the only drivers who make mistakes are Go Tony, Chris, and our rookie of today's Grand Prix, Stifler. His 3rd lap is now present, and DRS is now enabled. Looks to be Dog and Sam both diving into the pits. They actually pass each other while trying to pit, but looks like the Force India of Sam doesn't get the advantage. I mean, still ghosting through each other, but they'll both be in pit to be a close one out if they both have to fix their front wing.
Yeah, Sam's definitely fixing his front wing. I'm running on board with Sam. Be interesting to see whether he can get out ahead of that McLaren. They're both coming to the pits at the same time, and Sam tried to brake just that little bit later. He has got ahead of the McLaren, so the McLaren's changed his front wing as well. They obviously both had contact, and they're going to be joined on track by Go Tony, who's just coming across the pit exit now. So he's gained, yeah, he's got ahead of the McLaren, but he's just come out behind Sam for the Force India. So the McLaren lost a lot of time there in the pit, actually. I'm not really sure how they seem to be ghosting, as you said, Alan, but then he seemed to lose quite a bit of time to Sam. 5 seconds to be exact. But MLA doesn't care. He's in the lead by almost 3 seconds. He wants to eat into Beasthass's championship advantage whilst he's not here. James Slater, solid position from him, and I'm glad I can see him today. Last week we had some issues, but there's a couple of battles performing, which is Sean in 3rd place. He's got a bit of a train of 4 cars, and then behind him, as you mentioned, Stifler was in a little battle earlier with his teammate and co. And the stewards did pre-warn the drivers in their pre-race stewards report that on the exit of turn 9, be careful not to run across the gravel, as we see Chris going down the inside of Sean in the entry to turn 3. So I'm not sure what happened there, as now we see a Sauber on the grass. That's Dan. So Sauber and Jaw are battling, as are Chris and Sean. So Chris is back down, so I don't know if that was lag. That looked a little bit of a risky move, Alan. I don't know if you caught the end of it, but yeah, these guys aren't leaving nothing on the table.
Yeah, I was a little surprised about that. These four were heavily packed together. I was looking at
Sean's in the gravel.
said after that. Well,
Sean's
Sean out.
No.
Or Sean's off the session. Never mind. He's off the session. City again running wide in the background. And that had DRS off the AI of Sean. And I mean, I'm not sure what happened with Sean. I mean, Mercedes definitely need a good weekend, despite to the fact that neither Williams drivers are here today. Those 2 drivers are the main threat in the Constructors' Championship this season. So I'm definitely between these 2. Now Sean's already down to 8th place after just leaving, just around like 10 seconds ago. But for the meantime, right now, as we approach lap number 5, MLA is still the man on top. Clifford now gets by Sean. And by the time he joins back, he should be in 14th out of 14, depending if we still have people in the session out of 14. But we go through for lap number 5, and it looks like 4.5 seconds on the board against James Slater. 3rd is Chris, 4th is Jor, 5th is Dan, 6th is Matt, 7th is Stifler, 8th is Clifford's Red, 9th is Sean, 10th is D90, 11th is Sam, 12th is Cobblers, 13th is Tony, and it actually looks like Cobblers is gone as well. Dog is in 14th place. He's still in the session, so he should be getting by Cobblers this lap, though. But it looks to be MLA putting up a good gap over James. And now, I'm going to ask you this question. Beastaz is in here. Do you think the motivation level is a lot higher for MLA?
Yeah, he's going to want to score highly today, Alan, taking advantage of Beastaz's absence. Both Sean and Cobblers have rejoined the session, but neither seem to be able to get back into the car, as they both appear to be ghosting. So we'll just have to wait and see. But Dan is 2 tenths behind. In fact, he's pretty much pushing Jor along, sorry, I should be more clear. And this will be interesting down the back straight. Sean's left the session, so perhaps he can't get back into his car. That's going to be disappointing for him. What's Dan going to do? Is he going to sling it down the inside, outside? This will be interesting. Jor is getting DRS as well because of Chris. and Matt's coming onto the scene now in his Force India. So this is going to be a little four-way battle for the final podium position, as Clifford's Red is all over new boy Stifler, who I have to say is in 7th position and doing a solid job. But what can Clifford's Red do? D90's already back up to 9th. Sean is down to 10th after ghosting, and Cobbers is down in 14th. So it'll be a matter of time before Sam, Go, Tony and Dog get past the ghosting Mercedes of Sean. We're going to be in for an interesting battle here, Alan.
Yeah, I'm starting looking at that. It looks like Dan wheel to wheel and Jor backs up, and new man in 4th place is going to be Dan in the Sauber. So he moves up to 4th place. There's Jor in the background. May dive down to the inside as the Sauber misses the apex, runs it by. He's going to be wheel to wheel to Red Bull, and Jor's going to try and not dive down to the inside. Things better of it. We're headed to lap numerous number 6. So a good battle definitely going on with these two of Dan and Jor, as he also has a feisty pink car behind him, the Force India, to the final corner. He has to keep that in mind. If Jor wants to attack, he's got to remember there's a third car behind him. So if something goes wrong with the overtake, the Force India is there to take both positions. That's if they get close enough to each other, because down the straight they really expand. It sounds ironic. You'd think that down the straight they'd get closer to each other in a slipstream, but this game really has no slipstream in online. Offline is completely different. There's tons of slipstream, but in online it's really hard to find anything. Even if you're in standard mix, it's really hard to find slipstream, so you really have to be in rich mix. So if you're already pushing the beginning of the Grand Prix and you're low on fuel and you need slipstream low, I hate to tell you, it's not going to work for you. 7 laps there, the gap between these two drivers increasing lap by lap, but again, a mistake within any of these three drivers can mean a crucial position change over the next few laps. When we look further up through the grid, it starts with Chris in 3rd, 4th is Dan, 5th is Jor, and 6th is Matt. They're all within a couple seconds of each other. Jor's a terrible exit off that time. You look behind, looks like the Force Indy has some DRS, so it could be possibly between Jor and Matt, and I wonder if Jor is able to make that pass on Dan. I wonder where they would be, considering the fact that Dan is actually reeling in Chris for 3rd position. So it actually looks like these positions are shifting very fast now, as we approach lap number 8. MLA is still leading by 7.8 seconds. I'm not sure if I'm reading it correctly, but that gap is definitely increasing. I would have to say so, as it looks like Stifler and Clifford both gain positions as Jor and Matt pit. So they are both in for their first pit stop of the day. They will be putting on the... hold on a second. Doing a little stop and go from Matt. Says he's on the soft tires. Not sure if that's correct. They put on super softs to me. But for Jor, we can definitely confirm those are medium tires on his car. First stop done for Jor and Matt, and Jor's ahead of Matt. So speaking of pit stops, you have to keep in mind that these drivers are very close to each other to keep them down each other. Do you think they'll come in together, or try and find different laps either to keep under kind of overtime?
Well, they definitely want to do something, because it is really hard to overtake around here. As we're seeing Dan showing us exactly how it's done. Chris goes a little bit wide at turn 9. Dan's trying to go around the outside of him at the hairpin. Is Chris going to leave him room? Chris leaves a little bit of room, but there was contact there, and Dan backs out of it. Both, of course, need good results after DNFs last week. But yeah, Chris in the podium position, and Dan wants it. We saw in the podium race earlier that we had all but one driver do a 2-stop. So what these guys will do is up to them, of course, but the soft tires started to go off around lap 10-11, and anyone on the mediums came into play. But all of these drivers started on the soft tires, so you have to expect they're either going to extend this stint and do a 1-stop onto hards, or they're going to just call it a day and do a 2 on these tires. So it'll be interesting to see who does what. But yeah, Dan's getting he's getting close to Chris. They touch wheels. There's going to be contact. There was contact there. I have to say, from my opinion, it didn't look like Chris did a lot wrong. But yeah, that was almost disaster for Dan. But he kept it out the wall. He just needs to collect himself, not get too angry under the helmet, and go and get that 3rd place back.
So again, I kind of find it funny, because you said, in the beginning of what you said it's hard to pass here, then all of a sudden, Dan was able to squeeze his car down the street they're on right now against Chris, but he wasn't able to do it I do think this track is very easy to get a car side by side with someone, but be able to capitalize on an overtake is quite hard at this circuit. I think that's a little correction. I think we can both agree on it. But lap number 10 is now through. MLA crossing the line. No fastest lap, but James Slater's in the pits. Let's see the tires they'll be putting on. Most likely, it'll be the medium tires, maybe. I look at the detail. A lot of these drivers on the soft, so it could be mediums, could be another set of softs, could be even hard tires if you are Clifford, or if you are Doug and Cobblers, both of you, I mean, would be putting on the hard tires, but they'll be in the pits along with, if I read correctly, Stifler in the pits with James. James will put on the hard tires as Stifler goes on the hard tires as well. He'll exit the pits, and it looks like Chris is up to second, as I think I was missing something. They're trying to go around the outside, which is a Sauber of Dan against Chris for second place, as it looked like the car had pitted. So both of these drivers now finally bound for a podium position. It looks like there's a yellow in Sector 1. Hold on a second. Going through the grid, and I don't see a yellow at all.
It's Stifler.
Oh, never mind. There's a Sauber. Stifler in the first corner.
I watched that on board, Alan. Stifler was basically exiting the pits, and Matt and Clifford's Red were coming down the outside. Obviously, Clifford was on the inside, and there just wasn't room for those three cars. And unfortunately, it was the driver who was exiting the pits. Stifler in his first race. It looks like he's got a little bit of end plate damage, but it doesn't look too much. Whether that'll really harm him here at Barcelona, of course, a track that requires a nice, good front end, he might want to come in and change those tires, but he's going to be disappointed because he was going to come out in about 7th or 8th, as James has now left the session. So what's going on with him, because he was net P2 before the pit stops. Yeah, Stifler's definitely struggling with wing damage, so Dog's about to pass him as well, so he's going to have to pit for a new front wing. I'm not really sure who was to blame there, but Stifler definitely came worse off, as Matt and Clifford's Red were battling for position. James has rejoined. Hopefully he can get back in his car. We've seen with Cobblers already that he wasn't able to, and Sean as well. So is he going to be able to get back in? He's in second place. So I'm still riding on board, and it's still Ghost. This is going to be really frustrating if he can't get back in and he can only spectate. And yeah, if he can't, this needs to be sorted, because it's just like Odems was mentioning on the live stream, when you put in a week's practice and you're not able to race, it is very frustrating.
A lot of the drivers that couldn't even show up, I believe some of them did practice and then found out there was either some events happening and they couldn't show up. I know as a league racer, from my point of view, there's been some instances where I think it was more humiliating in my point, because I mean, my internet has been fine, but there's one race where I started off 2 seconds in and I retired by someone smashing into me. I think that's more I would say more dissatisfying than just getting disconnected due to the fact that it was someone in the race that affected you. But again, get disconnected is a terrible feeling to feel, but that's something I did look at. A lot of these battles are going to be happening with Chris, Dan, Jor, Clifford, and Matt. This train is very close and down the straight. Jor's going to go defensive for 4th place. Around the outside, there's Clifford if he can hang it in the first corner. Wheel to wheel, they're going around the outside. He's going to clip the nose almost. You have the inside this time to make some contact. Maybe around the outside up 3. But this time, he's got the momentum carrying uphill. Still side by side is Jor and Clifford, and this time by around the outside, he's got to do it again, and he'll have the inside advantage this time. If he can just put the nose down in there, that'll be the advantage, but this time I feel like he should have it. They make a little contact, a little wheel spin, and Jor's going to get the advantage. Jor's going to be able to hang on to P4, and just because of that, you can look in the background. Matt has definitely gained. There's a yellow in Sector 2, by the way. Didn't want to interrupt that, but there's some time. Stifler again, there's something on his tires. He's pulling up to the side again. Stifler, not the best debut he had in plan here in Barcelona. And by the way, any race reactions, you can have a comment down below. You can go to the website, which is f1tshub.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at f1tshub. So yes, that'll be that. 13 laps through, your leader still MLA by 19.4 seconds. Has he pitted yet? Yes, he has, and he's definitely putting up some sort of beast has performance, to say the least. I mean, I wouldn't expect MLA to be having a 19-second gap, especially to someone like Dan, who didn't even qualify into the top 10. His time was 1.5 seconds off pace at least. I think it was 1.7 if I'm correct, or I think that was his teammate. But yeah, I'm sort of surprising to see him up in second, especially 19 seconds to MLA. I'm kind of curious what happened to everyone else. But as we go into the grid, if you want to do a quick rundown, we will. As it won't probably stay there for that much longer, as there's a good midfield battle. Here we go very quickly. Stay with me. We have MLA Dan, Chris, Jor, Clifford, Matt, James, Sam, Dog, D90, Gotoni, Sean, Cobblers, and Stifler, who has retired from the session. So he is our first retirement today out of 13 laps.
Yeah, Stifler, he was going really slowly there after that incident. I believe he changed his wing, but after that, he got out of the way of some front runners and then basically came into the pits and called it a day. But yeah, it's going to be extremely frustrating for some of these drivers who've had connection issues, and now Dog's had a connection issue, and they just can't get back into the session. They're all complaining they can only spectate and they can't get back into their cars. So you know, I apologize to them. You know, if there's anything I could do, obviously I would help, but as they say, it's no one's internet. I think it's just this game proving to be a little difficult. But Jor and Clifford's Red are about to go side by side. Matt's hanging on to the background there. Clifford's got the inside, Jor's on the outside. They give each other space, and you have to say that's a DRS job done. Dan, meanwhile, did get the move on Chris earlier on. We missed it, but on the faster medium tyre, you have to say Dan has got to be two-stopping. Jor isn't giving up this position, and he's got to be careful because Matt keeps looking. Matt's on the soft tyre, so Matt's definitely two-stopping, and he's going to want to clear these guys and use that pace advantage. This is some pretty exciting stuff. 3 of them, they're literally battling for position as the ghosting Mercedes gets out of the way. It's being lapped, I believe, now. So yeah, that's really disappointed for the Mercedes driver. There's an incident with Sam. Jaw gets a little bit wide. It looks like a little bit of carbon fiber flies off there. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like. Oh, it was a Force India's wing. So yeah, turn 9 on the exit is proving to be a traction nightmare for these guys, and perhaps the ballast is turned up a little bit too high, and yeah, Matt's got a terrible understeer now, so he's going to have to come in and change that wing. He decides not to. He's going to struggle through some of these high-speed corners, and he definitely needs to be careful. But yeah, MLA, he doesn't care. He is absolutely dominating this race, and looks to be one-stopping as well, so you have to say he's going to be turning his engine down and going for a Sunday drive, or I should say a Friday drive. But yeah, Dan in second place, Chris in third, and these cars are all quite strategically close in terms of when they pitted and what's going to happen later in the race. I'm really interested to find out how these guys play this.
I was looking at something. The gap between really the top 3 down to 7, not 7, 6. I got the 2 Force Indias confused with that, but look through the grid, actually. They're still pretty close to each other. I mean, like you said, high-speed corners. I can see the wheel shaking on Matt's screen. See the speed is just lost in that corner. I believe that was turn number 9, if I'm correct. But as yeah, this is 10 and 11, so yeah, it had to be turn 9. But yeah, Matt definitely facing some difficulties with that car due to the front wing. Some of it is not there, and he's still maintaining, which is good. But the gap has really diminished between Chris and Clifford, as these two could be putting on a good battle within the next couple of laps, as Jor and Clifford were really close to each other. Just a couple laps ago, they were wheel to wheel in one of the corners, and it looked like Jor backed out. And actually, I'm surprised that Dan is still keeping up with MLA, because earlier, I mean, now the gap is around still 19 seconds, like it was 2 laps ago. So he's not falling off the pace at all, or just MLA not trying. Not surprised if either one was correct. But 16 laps through, we're almost halfway through in this Grand Prix. And going through the grid, I really do feel like I really do feel like that Clifford is going to put something up against Chris. It's like we said, this is for a podium position. If they stay where they are, one driver out of this battle will get a podium, the other will not, as Clifford gets a penalty. trying a little too much. So it looks like he's trying to catch up to Chris. But like we said, one of these drivers out of Chris or Clifford is going to go defensive. He may try to go around the outside. Looks like turn number 10. Gap closes between Clifford and Chris. Uphill in 11 and through 12. They go is on board with Clifford against Chris. Like I said, two of these drivers here, third and fourth. One of them will get a podium. The other will not. So this battle will be a little more interesting than it usually would be between any two drivers. Not as much as the race lead, but down the straight. DRS is enabled for Clifford against Chris. Like we said, online slipstream isn't really evident here, as you can see down the straight here, switching the wheel a couple times, trying to put up in a rich res, but still nothing done against Chris. So 17 laps through, this is your Grand Prix break. It looks like Matt is actually into the pits, and looks to be, will be fixing a front wing, so he said, I can no longer struggle, I can't do this anymore. So he's out and away. Looks like the Ferrari of D90 will get by, and he will fall into the 8th position down the straight, most likely. That just flies by him down the straight. So he'll fall down into 8th position, and actually he could be passing the Ferrari of D90 in front of him within the next couple of laps if he gets close enough. And speaking about passing, when do you think Clifford will be able to get by Chris?
Looks to me that perhaps Chris has got a little bit less downforce than Clifford's Red, because during that middle sector, Clifford's Red always closes up, but he can do absolutely nothing down the straight. Even with DRS in the last lap, I was riding on board with Chris and looking out of the rear camera view, and Clifford's Red just wasn't closing. So I'm not exactly sure if that's a tactic of Chris's, or perhaps he's just getting his exit nailed at this last corner as Clifford's Red goes a little bit wide there. But yeah, Chris seems to be struggling for pace on these hard tires compared to his last stint. And although Dan's got to stop again, he's already got a 6.5 second gap. Speaking of Dan, he just got a time penalty, so he needs to be careful, because this is a track where, you know, you can get some penalties involved with the results. But if we have a run through of who's on what tire, as we say that, Clifford's Red goes down the inside of turn 4. Chris holds it on the outside. Is this going to come into play for turn 5? These two need to be careful. They both need a good result. Chris cuts across there a little bit onto Clifford's Red into the braking zone. Luckily Clifford's Red broke a little bit earlier and it didn't cause a problem. But if Clifford's Red can just stay with him as he gets a little bit of a tank slapper, they both look like they're struggling for traction and just general grip. But DRS is open. Clifford's Red, is he going to think about it? He's coming down the inside. MLA sets the fastest lap. They go side by side, and Clifford's Red gets the job done. Is Chris going to be able to hold on to him and try something down into the first corner? But no, the Toro Rosso looks a little bit hooked up at this stage. A little bit better hooked up, I should say, than the Ferrari. But Chris is going to come back, and Alan, I'll let you talk us through Chris's fight back for that final podium position.
So down the straight, DRS is available, and he's going to try and do one last shove down the inside. This time it's evident. Down the inside, trying to defend. He put a little block there, but down to the inside. Chris will take back the position, but if not yet, against the Toro Rosso, he made a little shove and bang with them. A little revenge after the same move he did to him just a half a lap ago. And I mean, man, that was something. I mean, he's able to get down to the inside, put the side pod against them, and he's able to get by. So again, now on board with Clifford. Now he's trying to get by for the position. So this time they're approaching the second sector, the same sector where they had their little, side-by-side battle, and maybe some returning scenes. Maybe they took some notes on how to maintain those positions. So maybe we can see the same move, maybe a different move, maybe no pass at all. But down the straight, a terrible exit from Chris. Now he's trying to put a one block on there. Now down to the outside. Last time we saw this, it didn't work, but around the outside. This time it may be different, but shoves him off. Still going to be there, and around the outside, finally, let's go. Chris is going to be able to hang on. I think Chris took some notes after that last pass, said, I have to defend the inside line. That's what he did, and he's down still in third. But you also have to keep in mind that down the straight, he's going to be defenseless as well. Now we have part number 2 of this test between Chris and Clifford. Down the straight, not a good exit from Clifford. He runs it very wide, but DRS is available. It looks like this time Clifford going to fall back, and Chris is going to be able to hang on. Lap number 20 is upon us, and it looks like Chris just found out what he needed to do to get podium.
Yeah, what'll be interesting for me is these two obviously they both passed each other, so they're both going to be aware now of where each other wants to make the job complete. But yeah, Chris pushing Clifford's Red, you have to say, on the outside there. Give him a little squeeze off track. Obviously not too much harm down, but Clifford's Red had to lift off and back out. I don't know about you, but obviously Chris has been involved with a few incidents, as we see a 5-second stop and go penalty for Matt for speeding in the pit lane. Chris has been involved with a few incidents this season, you know, and I think being as aggressive as that probably isn't something so wise when he just needs a good result. But he doesn't want to give up this position, and Clifford's Red's going to try on the outside again. Chris gives him room this time, but Clifford's Red backs out again. So he likes that hairpin, but you have to say, Alan, that the biggest opportunity for Clifford's Red, like Chris did, was the home straight into the first corner. Meanwhile, Jaws now in DRS, so these two have someone else to think about. Yeah, and as well as that, Dan is now almost 10 seconds ahead of them, and that's almost half a pit stop. So this will be interesting to see. That's what I said earlier. We might not have as many battles on track now, but the strategic side of things is going to get extremely exciting towards the end of the race. Yeah, lots of drivers on different compounds. We got MLA as Clifford's Red tries to go around the inside of turn 3, and he does. What's going to happen? He's got past Chris as MLA gets a time penalty. So now Chris is going to be back on the fight back. This is one of the best battles I've seen of the season, Alan. These two are going wheel to wheel, corner to corner. It's fantastic stuff.
Looks to be Clifford finally back ahead. So it took him long enough. Maybe the next 2 laps will be the other way around. But it looks to be lap number 22 now. And something I do notice, you didn't see a car in the background. That is going to be Jor. Due to the fact that these two are continuing the battle, Jor has found enough time to catch back up, and now could be possibly a 3-car fight for the podium. Say 2 no more. It's going to be 3 if these two keep at it. So I'd do a little team order between the two. Maybe with the Red Bull team going over to Toro Rosso saying, hey, slow down, but never mind. In the pits goes Jor. And looks to be that is right now. So dive into the pits, get under the speed limit there. So he'll be in the pits, and his pit stall is right about there. Looks to be he'll be putting on the medium tires. Yes, he is. Out and away with the white wall tires for his final stint of the race and the final pit stop for him. Down the straight to Force India should get him. And there's a chance about D90. I don't think D90 will be able to get him. He's far away back. Down the straight, already exiting is that Red Bull. Very, very close to Sam, but it looks like the undercut is able to prevail against the Red Bull driver. So 22 laps through, almost 23 with MLA. That will lead to 11 laps to go, and these drivers still have one final pit stop to make. And it's like when he stops Dino. There's only a couple of them who have 1 stops and 2 stops. I mean, you have Sam and Joel with 2 stops. You have Go Tony with 2 and 3 for Matt. What do you have of that?
Yeah, we've definitely got some different strategies going on here. I think the biggest one that's going to come into play, anyone who on a 2 stop is going to want to kind of stop now, and you would think Alan fit those soft tires and take those to the end. And Clifford's Red comes into the pit, so he's switching from his 1 stop onto a 2. He was obviously on the hard tire. Did he get his car slowed down in time? I believe he did. Dan still got to stop, and perhaps this could hand Chris 2nd place now, because he is 10 seconds behind Dan. He doesn't have to stop again, we don't think at least. Gaza from the podium tier was able to brilliantly make that 1 stop work, the only driver in that tier to do so. But he did start on the medium tires, of course. All these guys started on the softs. But yeah, Clifford's Red, where is he going to come out? Just ahead of Sam by the looks of it. Yeah, so he comes out just ahead of the Force India driver, and of course Joel didn't get too much of an undercut on the Toro Rosso, so perhaps that's what Clifford's Red was doing, was covering him off. But D90 is just coming down the start finish straight, so after the first corner spin, you have to say it'll be bitterly disappointed with what could have been, but at least he's back in 7th and he's going to score some points. As is Go Tony, who's had a quiet day today. Haven't spoken too much about him, more about his teammate, but he's on my screen on the softs, but on the telemetry he's showing he's on the hard tyre. So it'll be interesting to see what tyre he's actually on and what stop he'll be doing as he goes wide at turn 3. You don't want to go too wide there. Matt is in 9th position, and then the guys from 10th to 13th unfortunately all disconnected from the game or were kicked out from the game and weren't able to get back in. So again, my apologies to them. Perhaps we can speak to Codemasters about this latest issue from them. But yeah, MLA, he must have just be going for a Sunday drive, forgot that anyone else was on track today, because he's a 23-second advantage. And Alan, this has been a pretty fantastic performance from him. He's really dominated and showed, you know, who's boss today, whilst BSAS decides not to show. But yeah, Dan's still out. We know Dan's got to stop again. He can't take those mediums to the end. He is creating a gap over Chris, but he is also, as Chris touches the gravel on the exit at turn 9, Dan is being undercut by some of the drivers like Sam and Clifford's Red and Jaw. So expect Dan to be involved in that little battle. And I wouldn't like to say who's going to finish on the podium now, but keep an eye on that gap between Clifford's and Chris. How much can Clifford's take out of Chris's gap for the remainder of this race?
Not sure what Chris is going to do. I mean, he is on medium tires, and we go through the stop interval. Says he has 1 stop compared to Clifford, Sam, and Jordan, who have 2 stops. So I'm not sure if he said he was going for a 1 stop or 2 stop, but he's going for a 2 stop. You know, cancel the option of getting a podium out. And he goes for a 1 stop, obviously, on my screen. It says he has the hard tires on, but then again, on the detail. Okay, that goes there. Last time I checked, it said he had a medium tire detail, so never mind. I scratched that out. He's definitely going for a 1 stop. My bad. So with 25 out of 33, if I'm correct, that is 9 laps to go here at Barcelona. Position change between D90 and Sam, because Sam exits the pits. I don't know why he is. Up to 6 is D90 now, after Sam puts on the soft tire for his final stint. As we go through the grid, it looks like the closest battle we have upon us is Sam and D90. But other than that, these drivers are pretty much spread apart, which is a little surprising, because Jor, D90, and Clifford, around those guys, were really close to each other. Not D90, my mistake. Just Jor and Clifford, really close to each other. Finally in the pits. Dan is in the pits and on board with Chris. Obviously, she had to stay out, but Dan will be putting in, remember, he has the very last stall, remember 2016 Sauber, 10th in Constructors. So he'll have the very last stall, putting on these soft tires, and that'll be his final run. Falls down to 3rd. What about Clifford's Red? Will he have a shot at 3rd place? Down the straight we go. Remember, the last pit stall already out is going to be the Sauber, so Dan still on the podium. So if he continues his pace, the best finish he'll get possibly could be 2nd place. At least he'll get a podium no matter what happens until an incident does happen. But going through the grid, 26 out of 33, I'm going to say very quickly. Right now, MLA is leading. So MLA, Chris, Dan, Clifford, Georgie 90, Sam, Tony, Matt, James, Dog, Sean, Cobbler, Stifler. It looks like a fastest lap for MLA, a 1:21.7. However, I'm on board with Sam, D90 and Sam. Very close to each other. It's 1:10. So these two definitely going at it. They do make some contact, and it looks like Sam's going to get by D90 for 6th place now. It's a difference from 6 points to 8 points. And again, I'm sorry if you hear the phone background. I still thought I shut it off. I have to take it out of the room. But like we're saying, I'm going through the grid very quickly. And I'm surprised that MLA put up a 38 flat second gap. That is with Chris staying out. However, once he pits, that's going to go all the way down to possibly even 50 seconds. I mean, by the time this thing's over, it could be more than a minute, as 3-second penalty for Chris, who's in 2nd. laps, that adds on to the 38 seconds. I mean, what do you have in that? I mean, MLA definitely is going to have a motivation booster after this one today.
Yeah, this has been utter dominance. We saw the same thing from Kian in the podium tier. So the guys who both started on pole position have gone on to win this by quite some margin. MLA is no stranger to winning, of course. He's been frequently up on the podium since he joined the league in Season 9. So many congratulations to him for his success so far in the league. May it continue. But this is really interesting. Can Chris hold these guys off? He's already lost 3 seconds to Dan, whilst getting a penalty as well, which isn't going to help his causes come the end of the race. But I believe all these drivers have 1 penalty each. But Dan stopped very late then. What a Clifford's red is a further 5 seconds behind. So can Chris, he's got 6 laps to go, 5 laps including this one, to go. Can he keep Dan behind him? You'd have to say he's going to keep Clifford's red behind, but can he keep Dan? This will be really interesting, and this will be the difference between the 1 and the 2 stop, and we'll be able to see which one's working and which one's the faster strategy, as Dan sets the fastest lap of the race on those soft tires, gaps down to 4.9, Alan. This is going to be maybe a last couple lap showdown.
Yes, I could definitely see a showdown. That's going to put on a good show for us, definitely inside the booth. But gap is now down to 40 seconds between Chris and MLA. Third is Dan, 4 seconds behind. So eventually, I mean, he's on I wouldn't say cleaner compound. He is on the newer compound. He's on the softest compound. He is just reeling him in. He's probably getting his, little fishing rod. He's reeling him in as fast as he can, trying to pull that fish out of the ocean. I mean, I would too. I mean, you don't have much time to get that fish out of the ocean. We only have a couple laps left to go. So the situation with Dan and Chris, it was 4.8 seconds just a second ago. Now it's 3.5. So Dan is really trying to reel it in as before the fish tries to get off the rod with the worm. I'm sorry, trying to use so many cinnamon. I can't say it. I'm so sorry. We're going through the grid. I'm having fun with this. But I'm going through the grid. I mean, you have Clifford's red. There's Joran, Sam. Sam was able to get by D90 just a couple laps ago, and that gap's already 5.2 seconds. Eventually 5.5, maybe next lap. But already the gap between Dan and Chris is 2.8. It was just 3.6 just a second ago. I mean, he's doing a good job on reeling him in. But Chris has got to hang on if he wants a chance at a podium today. And I said he was gonna pit. He's not pitting. My mistake by that. But going through the grid, Clifford and Jor, gap between them is 10 seconds. Jor and Sam, gap between them is 15. I can't believe it, because around 10 laps ago, they were nail biting each other for a position. They were basically on the edge, side by side of each other. Now the gap is like 10-15 between each one. So I think it goes to show that over the race, the pace really increases between some of these drivers. But remember, we have just 4 laps to go in today's Spanish Grand Prix. And putting on the Masterclass performance today is MLA, and that's Silver Arrow. You can see behind him is D90 a lap down. So there's only 6 cars left in this race that are still on the lead lap. Surprising to say that, because there's sometimes we've been 2 laps down, just like James Slater and Dog and Sean and Cobbins, and all of them have left the session. So really only 9 drivers left competing this thing, and 3 of those 9 drivers are a lap down. I mean, kind of shows how much MLA has put up the fight in this race. But we're on board with Dan, finds the inside in 2. He tried to pass Chris already. 4 laps to go. He's going to try and put the nose in 3. To the inside is Chris. To the outside goes Dan. Easily gets by. And leading the thing is second place of Dan. He's leading second place, so finally gets back into the position he was in. But because of that battle, it's now down to 43 seconds. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Dan still is going to get his second place. And the gap between Chris and Clifford is, let me put on the actual thing, the interval, is actually 6 seconds. So as time counts down to the end of this race, it'll be very close to see if Clifford can get close to Chris if he makes a mistake. I don't think Chris would, but it'd be a fantastic strategy call between the Tifosi, the Ferrari crew, with Chris Only making a one stop, definitely, it's really going to get him a podium today.
Yeah, that was really clinical by Dan. He really got that move done. He didn't waste any time. He knew he was quicker. He knew his tires were right on the correct temperatures and right in the window, and he just went for it. And look at him already pulling away at 1.6 seconds. What can Clifford's Red do? There's only a couple laps to go. How is Chris's tires going to hold up? I know that Gaza, who was the only driver to one stop in the podium tier, finished the race on 80%, and he started on the medium tires. So I don't know what Chris's tires are on, of course, but they ain't gonna be looking too pretty after this race. And I do hope they make it to the end, because a puncture now would be absolutely devastating for him. And what has been a hard-fought podium, of course. We've got some guys who weren't able to join the session, so that made it maybe a little bit easier. But taking nothing away from this drive and this one stop. Just quickly, Alan. I like your analogy. I think is what you were saying earlier with your comparing your fishing to the Formula One cars, which is fantastic. Reeling him in, I like that. And yeah, Chris is now 4 seconds ahead. Chris has lost 3.2 seconds on this lap alone to Dan. So you know, it's hard to say. One stop, two stop, what was quicker? But Dan's definitely making this two stop work. 3.5 seconds, and the gap's coming down to Clifford's Red. If Clifford's Red can keep pushing, maybe we should go on board and see what the fuel situation's like, because we can see in the back of Chris's car that Toro Rosso is getting closer and closer. We're on the penultimate lap.
Yes, 32 out of 33. It's about to change in a couple seconds with MLA, but I keep looking back through the grid. I mean, gap I really look at, again, the Toro Rosso and the Ferrari of Chris and Clifford. I don't think there'll be enough time between these two. I mean, the gap is there, but for Chris to be able to hold on to this thing, that'd be a challenge he has to conquer. That's 2.5 fastest lap on the last lap of this Grand Prix. Final lap in today's Spanish Grand Prix. MLA putting on the masterclass performance today. He's trying to duplicate what Beast has done. The first 3 races of the season win. Now in race 4, 5, and possibly 6, MLA wants to do exactly that to stabilize himself in the championship hunt. But I ride on board with Chris. That Toro Rosso is there. The gap is 1.8, now 1.6 seconds. They're headed to the final lap here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. And they'll have one final shot. One of these two drivers will be getting a podium today. You also do have to keep in mind penalties as well. So let's say Clifford gets by, but has way more penalties. I think he actually does, in all honesty. But final lap today in Barcelona and Catalonia. Right on board with Clifford, who's in 4th. It's 1.2 now. There's a chance he could get DRS on the back straight. I don't think it'd be enough. Like we said, slipstream isn't really there. But now we transition back up to the front. The man of the hour leading every single lap. Fastest lap. I'm not sure if it's fast. I think it was fastest. Yep, fastest lap, pole position. A grand salami as he comes across the line. MLA wins a Spanish Grand Prix. Round number 5 belongs to MLA, and it is no doubt in my mind that he has done the most in this race as he conquers everyone today. He stands on the top step podium as well. But the gap now is 1/10 on board with Clifford. Down this back street, he's literally pushing him to the corner. DRS is available now. Puts up the flap a little too late. I don't think that's going to do it. May try and dive it onto the inside. That's what he's going to do. They bang, hit the side pod, and Chris is going to be able to hang on. I don't think there's any other passing maneuver there is. On board with Clifford for the final time. A couple other drivers already finished there, a lap down. In second, but diving down to the inside, goes for it. They bang again, forcing him off again. That may be a penalty. Final corner. Chris is going to hang on out of nowhere. He's going to hang on against Clifford. Crosses the line. Man, that was very close between these two drivers. They put everything on. I think that these two had to put on the battle of the race. No doubt in my mind that these two deserve the battle possibly of the season so far. I was really amused with that one.
Yeah, that was fantastic stuff, Alan. When you were riding on board with MLA as he crossed the line, I didn't want to take my eyes off these guys. I saw how quickly the Toro Rosso was closing in on the Ferrari, and he went for a couple light dive bombs, and there was a few wheel banging and side pod banging. It was hard to tell exactly what happened at that final chicane, but you definitely had to say Clifford's Red was alongside. What happened in after that is really difficult to tell, but MLA doesn't care. He's on the podium, back on the top step. It's like he never left it from last week, but you have to say very different circumstances with Pisas not being here, winning by over 40 seconds and some margin. But congratulations to him, and also Dan, solid job in second place and a great strategy, I have to say as well. Chris, third position. It's a good comeback race for him after some disappointing results and a disappointing start to his championship. But yeah, top four got penalties, as did Sam in fifth. Matt got a 10-second penalty, or 2 5-seconds, and Go Tony, Go Tony got one, but yeah, Go Tony scoring some points today as well, so I believe that's his first points of the season since he joined the league, so massive congratulations to him. But misery for some of the drivers who disconnected and weren't able to get back in. My apologies to them, and I wish there was something we could have done to help you guys. But MLA, first position, Alan. Dan in second. Chris is in third. Clifford's Red, closely fought, but in fourth. Joe, solid result for him in fifth position. That's his best finish of the season. Sam in sixth. Donity, good recover from that first incident where he spun on the first lap. We weren't sure whether it was with contact or what happened. Matt is in 8th, and Go Tony is in 9th. He scores points. James will, of course, score points, even though he disconnected because his car finished. Alan, you enjoy that?
I definitely did. I mean, the battle between the two was, let's just say, the best of the season, by far. I mean, these two went at it the whole entire Grand Prix, so yes, I mean, you could say driver of the day Dan, you could say driver of the day MLA. I would give it to both of them. I'm not going to choose, let the people decide. But speaking about deciding and want to share opinions, we have a website. It is the Twitter is at F1TSub. The website is F1TSub.com. You can comment down below. The finishing results very quickly. We'll down with 13 seconds. MLA, Dan, Chris, Clifford, Jor, Sam D90, Matt, Go Tony, James, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas, Romain Grosjean, Stifler. Fernando Alonso, I forgot who drove him. I know Sean was Bottas. I know the Haas. I don't know. I don't remember everything. So that'll be it for the Spanish Grand Prix. If you enjoyed, I believe next week we go to an even more exciting track, in my opinion. We head to the Monte Carlo street circuit for the Monaco Grand Prix, if I'm correct.
Yes, that is exact correct, Dan. So Monaco, I imagine I've never commentated at Monaco, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure it's one of the most exciting ones. I imagine after that race you're feeling like you need a glass of water. But yeah, good race today. We saw some nice strategic battles and one that went right to the wire, but a domination by MLA. Hopefully we can get a few more drivers in next week, and we'll find out exactly why they weren't able to race today, and look for some higher attendances in both the tiers at Monaco. But I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I can't wait to be back next Friday, 7 PM for the podium tier and 9 PM for the Pinnacle tier in one of the classics, the crown jewel, the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm very excited, so I think that's going to be it for us. My name is Alan Cavanero. I'm alongside Nick, like Nick just said. Podium tier on this channel. My name is Alan Cavanero alongside Nick. We will see you next week for the Monaco Grand Prix. And again, check us out on Twitter at F1TSub, or the website F1TSub.com. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything else, you can contact us there. But if you want to contact us, we have Twitters as well. I'm not going to say Nick's. I'm not sure if you want to reveal your public, but mine is at Alan Cavi. So again, any questions, you have YouTube, you have everything. So again, any questions, please contact us. Don't be afraid to do so. But then again, my name is Alan Cavanero. I'm alongside Nick. We'll see you next week for the Monaco Grand Prix. Have a safe night, and peace.